Mr. Abdul Valodia, who's the chairperson of Overport Ratepayers Association. He's also the chairperson of United for Palestine, and he made some comments on the flotilla and indeed, the bombing. Now, Abdul, you've been a sort of civic activist and a ratepayer association activist with ORA, and I always bring you to join us is to give us an update on some of the challenges facing ratepayers. And indeed, we heard Professor Andre Duvanaga talking about the key parties and new parties emerging, and what's his take. Now, you mentioned in previous interviews with me that the different wards that have got the ratepayer associations, those wards must start mobilizing to prepare candidates and leaders for municipal elections, because those that are representing the ratepayers in those wards are looking at the delivery mechanism those leaders are sort of providing to the community. For example, in ORA, you got yourself and a couple of other leaders. So obviously, when you're selecting a candidate for the ward, you need to look at the support from the ward, but also from those that are registered in that ward. So, in line with what Andile was saying and Prof. Duvanaga was saying, that as a chair of ORA, how do you see leaders emerging from ratepayer associations being successful in the forthcoming elections? For example, Namai Buya is saying, we want to contest, we got the support, join us, and that's the call. So how do ratepayers align themselves with political parties to make sure they win a particular ward?
Sure, thanks, Eunice. I think it's very important of what Professor was actually, what he alluded to, what he spoke about. Prof was quite very interesting. He mentioned about the failure in the GNU. And, if we look at our issues with service delivery, we have the GPU here. And I can tell you something, realistically speaking, if we look at the city and look at what's happening currently after the GPU has come in as well with the GNU, it actually comes exactly to what he says, the failure in the system. And that's due to this coalition that's happening, because everybody is trying to fight for something. And everybody is trying to sing a song for service delivery within these organizations or political parties, but they have their own agendas. And we've always noticed this in the past with regards to other political parties in certain wards where there's failures, and they're always blaming the Tikwini municipality for non-service delivery. But I, as a chair of a ratepayers association, always say, I don't blame the municipalities, I blame the councillors in our ward, which is very important, because they are your connection between your ward to the municipality. They are your link. Exactly how we are on the radio station, you are a radio manager. There has to be some system that where you have accountability. We cannot go directly to the city manager. We cannot go directly to the mayor. We don't have access to him. We have access to a councillor. And when your councillor fails, we have issues of what we are faced in wards. And this is happening all over the country and all over the provinces. So that's why it's very important in what you say for us to pick councillors from within ourselves. And I think as ORA, Alhamdulillah, from the time we've actually formed this organization, because Overport was in really shambles. There was a lot of issues that we are faced with regards to service delivery. And, a few people of us that actually stood and we said, listen, let's do something. Let's help the community. And we formed the ORA. And from the time we formed, I think people still have a better life, and at least they have some hope that when they don't have water, there's lights, water outages, they know they can reach the ORA, and the ORA is there to assist them.
So there's interventions taking place to ensure that improved service delivery does take place.
100%.
That's your observation.
That's the observation.
Right.
So we're saying as a civics, we have this power that we have created, and where we're assisting communities. We've actually done this all over, which is in KZN, which we have, chats with Phoenix and so forth, and, so on, that where we're finding ratepayers association right up to Bluff. And we've also part of other organizations like ERPM, ERRA, which is, mother bodies of ratepayers associations. And, I must say again, all of us don't get paid for doing this. We are just civic bodies, trying to help communities, make a difference to somebody. I still recollect, and I think yourself. The wife even asked me many times, don't you have work to do? You're running on the road to go and see that the water outage or the bin didn't, bin's dirt was actually all over, sewer is flowing. Now, it takes few people to do something that can change society.
If everybody else relies on each other, nothing gets done.
100%. So we say people need to get together. And, I myself as ORA, we are going to have some public participation. And even with the help of Al Ansar, we are going to have some programs here within, Radio Al Ansar, within the hall, to encourage people to come and have this engagement. And I believe that councillors must be elected from your area. Councillors should never come from out of your area, because nobody can feel the pain that we feel in our community, in our area.
What you're saying is build up your leaders and then lead them to councillors.
100%.
And get linked up with a progressive political party to ensure that you attract all the voters in that area, not only a particular race group.
That's true.
Because you could be representing in Overport also a large number of informal settlements, and you don't want them to move away from the vision of ORA.
100%. The other thing that we notice as well, and this is observation from all ratepayers associations, that we do not find us as minorities, we call ourselves, as Indians, Indian communities. We don't find enough of councillors of our color in our areas, and yet we are the people that are the majority in the area. If you take, for example, areas like Phoenix, areas like Chatsworth, even here, right here in Overport, majority is Indian here. But we don't have an Indian councillor.
Because the leaders are disinterested, or they don't stand for elections?
I think it's a problem of voter education. I think it's an issue between people that didn't want to pick up their hands to say, let's serve, let's do something for the community. I think that was the biggest issues that we found, and we have to change this mindset. And as ORA, as the chair of ORA, I will say this, and I'll say this aloud to anybody on this, that's listening to this. Come to us, pick up your hand, and say, listen, I want to serve the community, and I have the interest of heart for community, and I like to be a ward councillor in this area. And we will make sure we will back the person, whoever decides to pick up the hand, because that's where it must come from. But also, activism must first start from the beginning, because you cannot put somebody in the job that hasn't even done the work.
Correct.
Right? So, people must go to the program and they must get the job done.
So you need volunteers
We need volunteers to join.
There's no financial reward, but there is also, sort of improvements in service delivery in
100%.
that area, and you need a group of people to
100%.
come in. And if not, all the people should join and assist. And I see in ORA, you've got a lot of members, and many of them are raising issues, joining and wanting to get involved. So in that way, politics will improve in those areas, not only civic activism, but eventually leaders, as councillors will emerge.
Very true. As you know, most political parties are out there for a political issue, to make sure they build that political party up strong. I don't say all political parties don't have interest of the community. Then you might not be in that space. But obviously, because you've chose the wrong person to be in that political party, I won't say the ANC is bad. I won't say they are bad, because you know what? We all voted the ANC. We go back to the struggle. We knew what apartheid was all about. We all voted them. But there were bad people in the system that brought them down to where they are today. And we need to fix it. We need to fix all parties, be whoever they are. Like you have the Africa Maibuya that's actually came up now. And I believe that people need to back political parties and find a home and form alliance. And you need to see who is talking for you, and do you have representation there. As I mentioned this to the people in Phoenix, which has the largest population of Indians here in South Africa out of India, which is Durban. And I said this, guys, we as Indian communities, we have given our votes to political parties, but you couldn't even earn a seat of MMC or even on a high ranking, capacity with regards to any political party. But you gave your votes to these parties that are holding votes for you. And yet go and look at it. Not a single Indian that's sitting on the high office. Why? Is this how easy people are just they're willing to give away something without getting anything in return? Because if you're not in power and you're not sitting in that seat and the table, there's no power to anybody.